The thunderstorm was ferocious, shaking the walls and dimming the flickering lights. Trapped in this old mountain cabin, my breath hitched as the power cut out, plunging the room into total darkness. "Stay close," Sam murmured. His voice carried a mixture of reassurance and something unspoken, something dangerous. I could feel the heat of his presence just behind me, his fingers lightly brushing my wrist as I fumbled for the flashlight. The cabin was supposed to be a cozy getaway for our team-building trip, but now it felt like a prison. The storm made the air heavier, more oppressive, as if something ominous lingered just beyond the pinewood walls. I hated relying on Sam for anything. He was my coworker turned nemesis, a smooth talker with a grin too cocky for his own good. We'd been assigned this trip by our boss, who naively believed that a weekend in the woods would magically fix the tension between us. It was the kind of tension that crackled in the air, undeniable yet infuriating. I hated how his gaze lingered too long on me during meetings, the way his smirk made my stomach twist in equal parts irritation and intrigue. Now, in the dim cabin, that tension felt suffocating. "Don't look so worried," he teased, his voice cutting through the patter of rain on the roof. "Afraid I might eat you alive?" "Afraid you'll bore me to death," I shot back, but my voice betrayed my unease with a slight tremble. He stepped closer. The floorboards creaked beneath his weight, and I could feel his breath, warm and close. "You're trembling. Cold, or something else?" Before I could respond, lightning illuminated the cabin, revealing the sharp angles of his jawline and his lips curved in that infuriating grin. My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to keep my voice steady. "Don't flatter yourself." His laugh was low, almost a growl. "Suit yourself, but we're stuck here together. We could at least try to enjoy it." The storm raged on, relentless. The small fireplace offered little warmth, and the dim glow it cast only heightened the shadows. I kept my distance from him, busying myself with finding extra blankets. As I rummaged through a dusty storage chest, Sam leaned against the wall, watching me with that insufferable smirk. "You know, you're a terrible liar," he said. "Excuse me?" I turned, clutching a musty quilt. He shrugged. "You act like you can't stand me, but I see the way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention." My cheeks burned. "You're delusional." "Am I?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Tell me, Claire, why do you hate me so much?" I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the heat spreading through my chest. "I don't hate you. You're just arrogant and annoying. And you're scared," he interrupted, his eyes locking onto mine. "Not of me. Of whatever it is you feel when I'm around." The air between us felt charged, like the storm outside had seeped into the room. I hated how perceptive he could be, how easily he saw through the walls I'd carefully built. "Let me make one thing clear," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Whatever you think is happening here, it's not. I don't play games." "Who said anything about games?" His tone softened, almost tender. "Maybe I just like getting under your skin." His words hung in the air, and for a moment, the storm seemed to quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. "Whatever you're trying to do, it's not working," I lied. "Then why are you blushing?" I opened my mouth to retort, but the sound of a window shattering cut me off. My heart leapt as the cold wind rushed into the room, extinguishing the feeble fire. "What the hell?" I grabbed a flashlight and shone it toward the broken window. The jagged glass glinted ominously, and the rain poured in, soaking the wooden floor. Sam was already moving, grabbing a chair to block the window. "Must have been the wind," he said, though his voice carried a hint of unease. I wasn't convinced. The storm had been violent, sure, but this felt different. "Stay here," he said, his tone uncharacteristically serious. "Like hell I will," I shot back, grabbing a heavy candlestick from the mantel. "If you're checking it out, I'm coming too." He didn't argue, which unnerved me more than his usual banter. Together, we ventured into the next room, the flashlight casting long, eerie shadows. The cabin groaned under the weight of the storm, and every creak of the floorboards sent my nerves into overdrive. "Do you think someone's out there?" I whispered. "I don't know," he admitted. For once, his confidence seemed to falter. We reached the kitchen, where another window had been broken. Rain pooled on the linoleum floor, and the wind howled through the opening like a wounded animal. Sam scanned the room, his jaw tight. Let's board this up and stay put. If someone is out there, they'll leave once they realize we're not easy targets. I nodded, though the idea of someone lurking outside sent a chill down my spine. As we worked to secure the broken windows, I couldn't help but steal glances at him. His usual cockiness was gone, replaced by a quiet determination. Why did you volunteer for this trip? I blurted out, needing to distract myself from the fear creeping in. He paused, his hands tightening on the piece of wood he was nailing in place. Maybe I thought you'd be worth the trouble. His words caught me off guard, and I nearly dropped the flashlight. What's that supposed to mean? You're smart, Claire. And stubborn as hell. But I see through you. He turned to face me, his expression unreadable. You push people away because you're scared of letting them in. Stop psychoanalyzing me, I snapped, though his words hit uncomfortably close to home. Fine, he said, holding up his hands in mock surrender. But I meant what I said. You're worth it. Before I could respond, a loud thud echoed from upstairs. My heart jumped into my throat as I gripped the candlestick tighter. What was that? I whispered. Stay behind me, Sam said, his tone leaving no room for argument. As we ascended the creaking staircase, I realized that whatever lay ahead, we'd have to face it together. The staircase groaned under our weight, each step echoing in the tense silence. My flashlight quivered in my grasp, casting shaky beams of light onto the wooden walls. Sam moved ahead, his broad shoulders cutting through the dark like a shield. Another thud came from the room at the end of the hall. My stomach clenched as we approached the closed door. Do you think it's an animal? I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. He glanced back, his jaw set. We'll find out. Sam's hand hovered over the doorknob. For a moment, he hesitated, then turned to me. If anything happens, run. And leave you behind? Not a chance, I shot back, gripping the candlestick tighter. A flicker of a smile crossed his face. Stubborn as always. He swung the door open in one quick motion. My flashlight illuminated the room, a dusty, sparsely furnished bedroom. The rain lashed against the single window, and the wind howled through a crack in the frame. But nothing seemed out of place. Sam stepped inside cautiously, his eyes scanning every corner. I followed, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then, just as I was about to exhale in relief, a shadow shifted near the window. There, I hissed, pointing. Sam lunged forward, yanking back the tattered curtain. The flashlight beam revealed a raccoon, its beady eyes wide with fear. It hissed before darting out the broken pane and into the storm. I let out a shaky laugh, relief flooding my chest. A raccoon. Of course. Sam chuckled, leaning against the wall. You were ready to take on a serial killer with a candlestick, huh? Don't mock me, I said, my voice still trembling. That was terrifying. He stepped closer, his expression softening. You handled it like a champ. His gaze held mine, and the storm outside seemed to fade into the background. The tension between us crackled again, but this time, it felt different. Less combative, more electric. Why do you always have to challenge me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because you're the only one who can keep up, he replied, his voice low and intimate. The air between us thickened, and I felt my cheeks heat. His hand brushed against mine, deliberate and slow. You drive me crazy, I admitted, surprising even myself. He smirked, but there was something vulnerable in his eyes. Good. Because you've been driving me crazy since the day we met. Before I could respond, another loud crash echoed from downstairs. The moment shattered, and we both sprang into action, racing down the stairs. In the living room, the front door swung open violently in the wind. Rain poured in, soaking the floor. I thought we locked that, I said, my voice tight with fear. We did, Sam muttered, slamming the door shut and securing the latch. We stood there for a moment, drenched and breathing hard. The storm outside roared louder, as if mocking our attempts to keep it at bay. I don't like this, I said, wrapping my arms around myself. Me neither, Sam admitted. He stepped closer, his presence grounding me. But we're safe in here. Nothing's getting past me. Despite the fear gnawing at my chest, his words comforted me. I didn't want to admit it, but having him here made the chaos feel manageable. We spent the next hour reinforcing the windows and blocking the doors. By the time we were done, exhaustion had set in. Sam lit a few candles, their warm glow chasing away the shadows. Not exactly the team-building trip we signed up for, he said, collapsing onto the couch. I laughed, sinking into the armchair opposite him. No kidding. For a while, we sat in silence, the storm raging outside. I found myself stealing glances at him, taking in the way the candlelight softened his features. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, catching me off guard. "Just how ridiculous this all is," I lied. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "You're a terrible liar, Claire." I rolled my eyes, but the heat in my cheeks betrayed me. He smiled, that infuriatingly charming smile. "You can admit it. You like having me around." "Don't push your luck," I said, though the corner of my mouth twitched. He stood and crossed the room, stopping in front of me. My pulse quickened as he crouched to meet my gaze. "Tell me to stop," he said, his voice soft but serious. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. But I didn't say a word. His hand brushed against my cheek, his touch gentle yet electrifying. The space between us disappeared, and for a moment, the storm outside didn't matter. But just as his lips brushed mine, the power flickered back on, flooding the room with harsh, artificial light. We froze, the spell broken. "Well," he said, his voice laced with amusement. "Guess the universe has other plans." I laughed, the tension dissolving into something lighter. Good timing. As the night wore on, the storm began to ease. The rain softened to a drizzle, and the wind quieted. Sam and I sat by the fireplace, the earlier tension replaced by a newfound warmth. "Maybe this trip wasn't such a disaster after all," I said, leaning back against the couch. He grinned. "Told you we'd survive." For the first time, I allowed myself to relax. The fear, the storm, the tension, all of it had taught me something important. Sometimes, you have to weather the chaos to find clarity. As dawn broke, painting the cabin in hues of gold, I realized that this trip had given me more than I'd expected. It wasn't just about resolving differences or building bridges. It was about finding the courage to face the unknown and maybe, just maybe, letting someone in. Please like and subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.